You ever have one of those moments where you walk into a room expecting one thing, and then suddenly everything flips upside down? Like you think you know exactly what's going on, but nope, turns out you're completely out of the loop. Yeah, well, that happened to me in the most bizarre way possible. I walked right into what I thought was a total stranger's birthday party. I'm talking balloons, music, people I didn't recognize, everyone was there except me. And it wasn't just any party, it was my own birthday party. I know. How does that even happen? I'm still trying to wrap my head around it, honestly. Imagine showing up at a surprise party that you had no idea was happening in your own house, and for a few seconds, genuinely thinking you're crashing someone else's party. That's the exact moment my brain short-circuited while standing in the middle of my living room. So, there I was, blinking at a crowd of half-familiar faces, some dressed up, others holding plates piled high with cake, and me just completely frozen. People smiled and waved like they were happy to see me, but I had this weird panic because, who were all these people? And why were they all here? Who invited them? And, most importantly, where was the guy whose party I thought I was crashing? But then it hit me like a ton of confetti. Wait, this is my party. The strangest thing, I had absolutely no clue my family and friends had planned any of this. Like, I swore off parties years ago, and somehow I had agreed to this surprise without knowing who was invited, when it was, or anything else about it. I felt like I walked into some alternate universe where everything familiar looked just different enough to freak me out. That moment was one of those weird, split-second realizations that you don't see coming. Have you ever stood somewhere feeling totally out of place in a space you should know by heart? Felt your whole world shift beneath you because suddenly the version of reality you trusted crumbled? That's exactly what happened to me that day, but trust me, it only got more complicated from there. Because crashing my own birthday party was just the start of a wild chain of confusion, awkward silences, and some genuinely hilarious mix-ups that I never saw coming. All while trying to keep a straight face and pretend like this was all perfectly normal. So yeah, if you think that's enough to make you want to hear more, stick around. The story gets way crazier than that. Alright, so here's the backstory that makes this whole crashing my own party mess even more ridiculous. The party was supposed to be held at my childhood home. You know, the one on Maple Street where the creaky floorboard still swings a little under your weight and the backyard still has that questionable patch of grass that survived all of our summers. Classic suburban setup, right? Anyway, the whole surprise was planned while I was out of town visiting my cousin in another state. My family and friends thought it was a solid plan, keep me away, get everything ready, and then bam. Hit me with the surprise party when I got back. The funny thing is, I wasn't even fully on board with the whole idea at first. I mean, I'm not really a party person. But my sister Emily and my best friend Jake kept convincing me that this one would be different. And yeah, full disclosure, it did sound kind of nice, like a low-key gathering, some cake, a few friends, nothing over the top. What I didn't realize was just how much Jake handled behind the scenes. Jake is that friend who can basically organize a small music festival and still have time to find the perfect playlist and coordinate snacks like it's a military operation. He was texting me all sorts of vague messages in the weeks leading up to my birthday, trying to keep things under wraps, but I mostly just thought he was being extra. Emily, on the other hand, gave me this cryptic little smile every time I asked if there was something I should know. She would just shake her head and say, "You'll see." So I'm out there, minding my own business, not really thinking much beyond the fact that I'm going to come home and probably find a quiet dinner waiting for me. Turns out, I was way off. Jake and Emily had been holed up for days, sneaking around the house, turning it into this party central that I didn't even recognize. Balloons here, streamers there, cups and plates stacked around the kitchen like some Ziploc army had invaded. And the guest list? Yeah, that was the part I knew the least about because it was a total surprise. Here's the part where things started to get a bit tense. Kind of like the calm before a storm made of cake and awkward glances. Jake called me the day before the party to make sure I didn't have any last-minute plans, reminding me to come home early. He sounded casual, but there was this weird, almost conspiratorial tone in his voice. Like he was trying not to laugh, but also really wanted me to show up on time. Emily? She wasn't as subtle. When I asked her if she wanted to hang out the night before, she suddenly got all busy with family stuff and sent me this text, "Trust me, you won't want to miss tomorrow." Which, okay, only made me more curious. I spent the night tossing around what the surprise actually could be. A few friends? A small party? Maybe this was some weird prank? And through all this, I had no clue how big the party was turning out to be. I mean, I knew a handful of people would come, but Jake was being so mysterious about the guest list that I started to wonder if there was some underground party society I wasn't aware of. Emily kept hinting that I'd be pleasantly surprised, but I was just trying not to overthink it. So that's the setup, the stage set, characters in place, but the lead actor, that's me, completely in the dark. And honestly, I kept thinking, there's no way I'm going to accidentally crash this thing. I'm literally supposed to be the guest of honor. Yeah, spoiler alert, I was wrong. There's this moment, a crucial pivot in all this, when I missed a text, got the timing totally wrong, and ended up walking into the party way before anyone else showed up. But, that's jumping ahead. Before all that chaos, I was still blissfully unaware of just how much Jake had booked the whole neighborhood, and how Emily was desperately trying to keep her lips sealed. There was some careful sneaking around from both of them, whispered phone calls, furtive trips to party supply stores, and emergency cake tastings that sounded way too serious for a birthday party. And oh man, the sheer effort to keep this under wraps was almost an entirely separate drama. I remember one night Jake almost let it slip while we were on the phone. We were chatting about random stuff and he said, "Just wait till you see the decorations we've got, it's gonna be lit." I laughed and said, "Lit? Come on, aren't you overhyping it a bit?" He, of course, didn't say much after that, just, "Trust me, man." Meanwhile, Emily was juggling the family and guest list like a pro. She warned me not to call my parents too much so they didn't accidentally spill the beans. Honestly, it felt like they were all part of some secret club and I was the last member who hadn't been inducted yet. But here's the kicker. None of that explained how I managed to show up uninvited to my own party. See, the plan was that I'd get back from the trip in the afternoon and the party would start around 7 p.m. So nobody would be there too early. Simple, right? Well, what actually happened was that my flight landed earlier than expected and I just couldn't resist heading straight home. I figured since the house was empty, I'd go in, grab some stuff, maybe chill out for a bit before everyone arrived. Yeah, that decision did not age well. Because that's when the whole confusion started, and I found myself walking into a room packed with people who were smiling and waving at me but acting like I was the surprise guest of honor. I kept asking myself, how did I get so lost in my own life that I didn't know what was happening at my own birthday party? The reality was that Jake and Emily had created this perfectly orchestrated secret, and I was unwittingly about to crash the entire show without anyone realizing it at first. So, the stage was perfectly set, the house buzzing, the guests trickling in soon, and me standing right in the middle of it all, holding my coat and feeling like I'd somehow stumbled onto a movie set where I didn't know the script. But yeah, that's where things start getting really, really awkward. So there I was, standing in the living room, coat in hand, eyes darting at all the decorations, trying to piece together what the heck was going on without blowing my cover. The lights were dimmed just right, music humming softly from the speakers, and people milling about, chatting and laughing like this was all totally normal. Meanwhile, I'm thinking, guys, it's me. I quickly realized the first problem. I showed up way too early. Most of the guests were still on their way, parking on the street or circling the block like it was the VIP section of some exclusive club. Only a handful of people had arrived, and they were busy setting up last-minute things or sneaking in with party favors, all while shooting me these odd glances like, "Wait, aren't you supposed to be?" I tried to play it cool, acting like the forgetful neighbor who just popped by unexpectedly, but that only made things worse. My best friend Jake was nowhere to be found, which should have been a red flag. If Jake wasn't here, who was running the ship? I shuffled towards the kitchen to maybe grab a glass of water and stumbled directly into Emily, my sister, doing a level of stealth that would make a ninja jealous. She was mid-whisper on the phone, using one finger to gesture, "shh," while glancing nervously over her shoulder. "Oh hey," I said, trying to keep my voice casual, but I probably sounded like I'd just been caught wearing a ridiculous costume. "Didn't expect to see you here so early." She froze for a second and then forced a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Yeah, just, helping set up. The early bird and all that." "Right, early bird." Except this early bird had no clue there was a worm waiting for him. The next 20 minutes were a dance of awkward near encounters and desperate attempts not to blow my cover. I ducked behind couches, pretended to check my phone, even helped rearrange some streamers, anything to blend in and figure out what was going on without revealing that I was, well, the reason for the party. Meanwhile, word started to spread among the arriving guests that Mr. Birthday Boy was I overheard hushed whispers between some friends who had been texting and calling each other, puzzled because no one could find me. One of my childhood friends, Sarah, wandered in carrying a plate piled high with snacks. She approached a little cautiously, eyes scanning the room as if she was about to uncover some kind of birthday heist. When she saw me, she blinked rapidly and asked, did you hear from the birthday guy? He's supposed to be here, right? I laughed nervously. Yeah, I guess. I just got here too. Her eyebrows knitted together like she was decoding some secret message. Wait, you're not his, never mind. At that point, I was seriously questioning my own acting chops. How was I supposed to stay incognito when everyone seemed to be actively searching for me? The confusion was building like a storm cloud, thick and ominous. Things took a bizarre turn when Jake finally showed up, dragging a massive box of decorations behind him, looking just as frantic as I felt inside. His eye locked onto mine for a split second, and then he broke into this grin that screamed, "What are you doing here already?" Before I could answer, Jake dashed over and started explaining to the crowd, "Okay, so funny story. Our guest of honor apparently decided to crash his own party by arriving way too early." Classic. Everyone laughed, which was both relieving and horrifying. Apparently, this whole thing wasn't some secret plan anymore, it had turned into an accidental comedy of errors. But that's when the real confusion spiraled out of control, because my early arrival threw off the entire timeline Jake had carefully crafted. Guests started streaming in faster, expecting me to be, well, not lurking around like a party crasher. The surprise element? Poof, gone. And of course, Emily wasn't thrilled. She pulled Jake aside and whispered something like, "We're gonna have to wing it now, he's already inside." The word wing it echoed in my head as I tried to figure out whether I should just fess up and save everyone the trouble or keep playing along with this weird accidental ambush. Would I ruin the surprise? Or was I actually the star of a surprise that had already surprised me? Standing there watching my family and friends scramble to adjust, I felt this mix of guilt and amusement swirling around. So yeah, that moment before I decided what to do next was one of those crossroads where you're wondering if you should just march out of the shadows and claim the spotlight, or keep somehow pretending you're just an uninvited guest sneaking snacks off the buffet. And honestly, that decision felt way harder than I expected. In the end, I went for the dramatic entrance. I mean, what's the point of crashing your own party if you don't at least make it memorable, right? So, after pretending I was some random guy trying to sneak past the snack table for way too long, I finally stepped right into the center of the living room with all the confidence of someone who had absolutely no idea what was happening, and then announced, "Hey everyone, surprise! It's me." There was this split second of stunned silence, like someone hit pause on a movie and forgot to press play again. Then the room exploded with laughter and cheers, and honestly, it kind of felt like I was on stage at a concert or something, which was hilarious because trust me, this wasn't the kind of party I'd usually enjoy. Jake gave me a thumbs up from across the room, and Emily rolled her eyes but smiled like she'd forgiven me already. It was one of those moments where everything just clicked into place, even though the entire situation had been a total mess up until then. From there, the party took on a life of its own. I briefly thanked everyone for coming and for pulling off such an elaborate surprise. And I'd have to say, watching my friends and family laughing, dancing, and goofing off in that familiar but suddenly stranger living room made me realize something pretty simple. Sometimes, life's best moments come, not when everything goes perfectly according to plan, but when you embrace the chaos and go with the flow, even if that means accidentally crashing your own birthday party. We spent the evening swapping stories, catching up, and overeating way too much cake while Jake cranked up the music. Emily kept sneaking me knowing looks, probably amused at how badly I'd messed things up, but how well it all turned out anyway. Looking back, I'm glad I walked in early, even if it was a giant mix-up. It forced me to drop the usual, "I'm not really a party person" act, and just be present with the people who showed up to celebrate me, even if the universe had a weird sense of humor about how it all went down. So yeah, if there's a takeaway here, it's that surprises don't always come gift-wrapped like you expect. Sometimes they arrive wrapped in confusion, awkward silences, and a fair bit of accidental stalking from the birthday boy himself. Now I'm curious, what's the wildest surprise you've ever experienced? The kind of thing that completely flipped your day upside down in the best or most ridiculous way. I'd love to hear because after crashing my own party, I'm pretty sure I'm open to whatever chaos life wants to throw next.